Sorry.
She's been
Well, that's
antsy
okay.
to get me to light this cigar for a while, and I've been kind of looking forward to it. Do you enjoy
No,
a
you
good
got
cigar
to.
once in a while?
No, in Afghanistan, I'd hang out in the cigar shack. I love the smell. I have other hobbies that cost me money.
Well, I have a few hobbies that cost me money too. Um, they usually have two wheels.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, so this is all about, in fact, that's, why we're here, the Gold Star Ride Foundation. I get on my two wheels
yeah,
and I get to go, there's so much of what I'm hearing you talk about that I can relate to because I've gone to meet with so many families. I don't know if you knew this about our organization, the Gold Star Ride Foundation, but before the stay-at-home orders were issued throughout the country, I think in January I came home from a 4,800-mile ride, and at that point, that put me on my motorcycle more than 41,000 miles in less than 21 months, and
okay.
I've now piled up somewhere around 150 families that I've gone to meet. I'm very, very fortunate that you did your job before I got there. But
Yeah,
because yours is what you did as a casualty notification officer was far more difficult than what I do.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. The initial notification, but the hard job. So after we do the notifying, we inform the family of the next step, and basically that the next day, and usually we have the name of the soldier that's assigned to that family, and it'll be another NCO E7. That the next day they'll be getting a phone call, and they will have a NCO assigned to them that will walk them through the entire process of how to receive the remains. Do you want to go to Dover?
Okay.
All that whole process. And then they will walk through everything from how to handle funerals, how to handle insurance, how to handle pay, how to handle housing. I mean, they are the casualty assistance officer. That person, I think their job is a lot harder
I can
because
see
as a
how that would be.
notifier, we are out in an hour. Okay.
Okay.
That casualty assistance, whatever they are doing, their job is dropped and they get reassigned to that family. And for the next 30 days, for sure, that's all they live, breathe, and eat. I mean, it's that family. That's their sole purpose. And if they have to put them in a hotel for that month, the Army does, or the DOD. And then after that, for the next 3 months, that casualty assistance officer still checks in. But from the point of receiving the remains and going through that whole process to then making sure all the paperwork and everything after that, that's an intense job.
I can see how that would be.
So
Somebody asked, I don't know if it came online or where, but somebody's asking if any of these families that you provide notification to, do they ever stay in touch with you?
yeah, I have a handful that stay in touch through Facebook because we're spread apart. I also have a few families that the soldiers I lost in Afghanistan that I still stay in touch with.
Okay.
So
We got a note from the producers here, but we can't read his handwriting. I think he should have been a doctor.
I got it. Yeah, I can ask right from here.
Go ahead.
Can you hear me, Chaplin? Is that how I refer to you? I don't know.
I can hear you.
Okay. So that's a really heavy burden to bear, to walk around with, I would imagine.
Yeah.
What were you ever shocked by a family's reaction, whether it, like a good reaction, a bad, whatever it is, anyone really, I don't know. It's so hard to watch. I've had loss in my life, and
Yeah.
it's hard to be around people in a sense when they experience grief like that. It's a mate. How'd you know you could do that?
Yeah. I don't know if you can prepare for the mindset, because I quickly learned that you can't read the book by its cover. So how you might initially look at a family when you first walk up to the door, or if you see them out in the yard, you can't really use that appearance or that image as how they're going to respond. It's usually about 25 minutes in that you can get a better feel for how they're going to respond, because the first part is just shock. I mean, they know why you're there, and good circle. They know why you're there, and
they probably can't believe
Sorry,
it.
none of them
I didn't
want.
mean to distract you.
They probably can't
Oh,
believe
that's
it.
okay. None of them. Oh, sorry.
I don't know if this is on.
Was there ever a time in your life
I hear you.
that it was, I would imagine that's a fast turnover job. That's just so much to bear. How do you go home and laugh? I don't know if you have kids and stuff like that, but how do you go home and have a nice day after that?
You don't. I think it was hard because I was, stationed at my home, basically, reporting to a local armory, doing family support and all that. The people back here just think you're at a normal job, but what they don't realize is that, you just went and told a family member of someone, they lost their loved one, or you have to go out to Walter Reed and meet with a family because there's a seriously injured soldier coming, and you're going to link up and prepare the family member to meet their soldier. Their soldier's still alive, but not in good shape. And so that was what I did towards the latter half of it. I started to go to the different medical holds and go out to Walter Reed a lot and pay attention to the seriously injured and wounded. I remember one day I left at 6 a.m. for DC, meet up with the family at 11, prepare them to receive their soldier, at 2, and then I was back on a plane at 5, heading home, and that was my day. And no one understands it. And I think I just kind of kept it all bottled in because no one was going to understand it.
Do you seek counseling yourself?
I did when I got out.
Yeah. I don't know how you
while
would.
you're in as a chaplain, and this was during the time of stigma, it would affect your career progression.
In the military, you can't go to therapy?
If you're remember back in 2005 and 6, 7, 8, chaplains were expected to be able to have it all together. You're supposed to be able to handle it all. It's like if you're a psychologist, you should be able to handle it all. And in the military, if you couldn't, there's a stigma.
Yeah.
Suicide intervention, and it took years to break that stigma. So, and I do think it affected a promotion of mine in the latter half when I came back, and I was doing too much of the suicide intervention stuff and trying to deal with my own issues from that casualty assignment tour and in Afghanistan, that it just got to me. And I was at a doctor's office, my orthopedic, doing my own stuff from recovery, and they heard I got a phone call to do the intervention, and they're like, "You're done." And they called the commander and said, "He's done. He can't do it."
Wow.
And so I think that affected.
Do you
today? Oh. Fast forward 10 years, I think the military's caught up to where they want you to.
God.
And I remember being told in Afghanistan, "You're a chaplain. You shouldn't need counseling."
Does it affect how you deal with death in your own life going forward, or how you view life? Are you more fatalistic? Are you more, I don't know, numb to it, sensitive to it?
I think I'm numb to emotion. So when you do notifications, or if you're doing casualty assistance and you're helping bring back remains, you can't. And then same thing with my own, I lost 23 in Afghanistan. And as a chaplain, you have a job to do, and your feelings and emotions are not part of that job. Your job is to get the soldiers, sailors, because my unit was mixed from all branches, get them back in the battle mindset and move forward and go back into the battle. Same thing on the casualty assistance and casualty affairs side. It's to walk that family through the whole thing. And it's not a time for you to have emotion, to feel sad, feel whatever. It's all about that family member, and you have to put your emotions on the back burner. And I think over time of all of that, I mean, they're buried. So example, here, I remember last year, a church member passed away, and, went to the funeral, and I didn't feel anything. You're supposed to feel sad, but there's nothing there. So it's somewhere. It's just
hard to access.
Buried.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm a stand-up.
So I don't know if that's good or bad. It's just what it is. And so my fear is I don't want people to think I'm insensitive because I don't show emotion, because that's not the case. It's just everything turns into a mission. I walk into that funeral home. It just reminds me it's a mission. It's a mission. It's not about you.
Well, I would like to take this opportunity to thank you for what you've donated to our country. I think you've gone above and beyond. And I also think Gabe here wants to tell you about his podcast, because he wants you to come on as one of his guests too.
Okay.
Am I jumping the gun?
Well,
there,
no. I mean, I'd be fascinated, but I wasn't going to do it here. But sure.
Hey, we're all in this together.
It's just I do a podcast called Profession Confession. We're like an iTunes top 200 one. I'm a stand-up comic. You don't see me right now, but I'm really good looking.
He's the mythical ghost.
And
somewhere.
Yeah.
And I talked a lot of. I was sort of ambivalent about a lot of military causes. Didn't have a lot in my family. Didn't have friends necessarily in it. Like, I just didn't think about it. And I've had a bunch on my show because I talk to people who have jobs involving life and death and sex, violence, and crime, which the military will check a few of those sometimes. And it's
sometimes all of them.
Yeah. And I started having a lot of special forces guys and to kind of hear these stories that were oftentimes really grotesque and really hard to hear. It became a cause of mine that I want people to hear these things, and I want them to hear the details, to know what these people are going through, to know why they're heroes, and to understand. And also because I don't want politicians to, I hate watching 60-year-old fat guys send kids into war without knowing what it's like,
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Well, we don't want anybody at any age or any physical condition to be sending kids in war without knowing what it's like.
Well, it's mostly 60-year-old fat guys.
Well, it's usually 60-year-old fat guys. Chad, your appearance here today has done a great deal. I think that I don't have no idea how many people are watching this right now, but I think both of them are riveted to every word that's dripping from your lips. I appreciate you coming on the
44
Gold Star
people
Ride Stream-A-Thon to help us raise money for the foundation that we work in. And I really, really hope that our paths cross again in the future. But before you leave, I did want to touch back on, you said you work with suicide prevention. And I wanted to touch on that.
As a trainer.
Not necessarily for you and me to have the conversation, but just in case somebody else is listening to this conversation. My platform is, and I've answered the phone a number of times from people who were mumbling because the barrel of a gun was between their teeth. If I can use that kind of a metaphor. That's not really a metaphor, is it? But anyway, I've shared a great deal of that, and the post-traumatic stress result of 1 out of 5 families that I visited, out of 150, 1 out of 5 of those families was a result of invisible wounds. Let me put it that way. I often say it's a sniper's bullet from 7,000 miles away. But the thing I wanted to bring into our conversation, yours and mine, is that I often publicly say, hey, look, this is my number. If this is what you're thinking about, call me, because just wait a minute. Call me. I'll give you a minute. and I just kind of let it go from there. Suicide holds a very powerful place inside of me, and I like to kind of go out of my way to make sure that if anybody's contemplating that, make the call. Okay, please don't call for the next hour because I'm doing a live Stream-A-Thon thing. But after that,
Tony,
just I'll give you a minute.
Tony, does Gold Star Ride Foundation, do you deal with soldiers, who have gone that route?
That's not our intent. Well, I'm not sure I completely understand your question. If they've gone that route and it's done, we go honor the family.
Great.
They're included in that. And in fact, I don't have any. Our logo's up on the screen, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
So if you look at our logo on the screen right now, there's a star in the middle, and the top point of the star has that really goofy shade of green. And that really goofy shade of green, we were told, is the National Post-Traumatic Stress Awareness color, which is why that really weird shade of green that doesn't match anything else that's in our logo, that's why it's there. Because as I mentioned earlier, 1 out of 5 of the families that I went to visit, out of the 150, 1 out of 5 was a result of the sniper's bullet from 7,000 miles away. Anyway, we've...
This is great. This is great.
Chad,
just get help. I mean, call a friend, call someone. Just, talk it through before you act on it.
Right. I have also heard it
said
that it's a permanent solution to a temporary problem. And you know what? If that's what your thought process is, and I've been close enough to it to know what that thought process is like, saying that it's a temporary problem to a permanent, or a permanent solution to a temporary problem, doesn't mean anything. This does mean something. Just wait a minute. Call me. We'll talk for a minute, and we'll see if you still feel the same way. We'll just give you a minute.
That's the biggest key.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Chad, I
People
also
are
want to
different.
thank you for what you did. I don't know if you
thank
can hear
you.
me, but thank you.
You're amazing, bro.
Anytime I
That's
can help
awesome.
you.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if we're ever going to do this again because I don't know if it was a success this time. But
It is now.
yes, the Gold Star Ride Stream-A-Thon, first ever. We're only 45 minutes late in the in the live broadcast. But I can't thank you enough for coming on, sharing your stories with us, informing everybody who didn't have a clue what it was like to be you.
Yes.
You're a testament to your profession, and I can't wait to see you again.
And not a bad looking
I'm
guy.
here.
Listen, Gabe, there's some things I can't say out loud. Thank you very much, Chad.
Thank you.
Okay, let me remind everybody, that was wonderful for him to come on. He was very, very compelling. I was really riveted with the things he had to say, but we are here to raise awareness and a little bit of money for the Gold Star Ride Foundation. So if you're thinking about it, a couple of things here real quick.